Up on the bench, Syracuse men's basketball battled Youngstown State in the Dome Saturday. The Orange's first two games of the season have been a little too close for comfort. Meanwhile, the Penguins hadn't beaten a Power 5 team in 12 years. So it was an easy win for SU, right?
Syracuse football headed west to take on Cal in a crucial Atlantic Coast Conference game. That just feels so wrong. Look, as much as I'd love to talk about the absurdity of conference realignment for an hour, this was a must-win game for the Cuse after last week's loss to Boston College. Stick around to find out if Fran Brown got to shower before a 5.5-hour flight home.
I sure hope he did, but moving to the pitch, 11th-ranked Syracuse field hockey duked it out with 10th-ranked Harvard in the NCAA tournament. The Cuse was in search of its ACC best fourth straight trip to the quarterfinals. Between the orange and crimson, which color came out on top?
Over on the ice, it's been a very tough stretch for the Orange. SU entered the weekend on a 9-game losing streak, but looked to bounce back against an RIT team it beat twice last year. Could the Cuse come out on top in a New York State clash? All of that and so much more. It's an hour-long live edition of On the Bench, and it starts right now.
At the end of the day, only one could stay. And with that being said, I'll be coming to Syracuse University.
Woo! The Cuse! You know what I'm saying? Yo, wow, listen. Mom and dad, man, listen. Hold on, niggas got hats and all that. Yeah.
That's my hat. Oh.
Yo.
Chill,
Okay.
I don't know if I can fit this.
Let's go. Draft. Orange. He's coming.
Let me get
on. Cuse.
Welcome into On the Bench alongside Adam Gotkin. I'm Skyler, Wilkes, and Adam, this isn't quite the CitrusTV studio, huh?
No, it isn't. Yeah, it's definitely a bit chillier out here than in the studio, but I mean, it's a beautiful day. Hey, blue skies. I mean, you can't ask for anything more in November.
I feel like those skies are probably so blue and sunny because Syracuse basketball just received some big news the other day, and you see that Carmelo Anthony Center behind us. That name means a lot in Central New York, and especially here at SU. And now there's another Anthony coming to the Hill. His son Kyan, a 2025 recruit, one of the top 50 players in the country, announced his commitment to the Orange earlier this week. It's a pretty big deal, Adam.
I mean, it's a big deal to say the least. It's pretty crazy that Carmelo played here just over 20 years ago, and yet his name is already on the wall behind us, but it just says how important he is to this university. I mean, he brought this basketball team to its only national championship, and this is the 6th winningest program in the history of the NCAA, so to have his son now come here is just massive.
So what, you said it's massive, what other impacts do you feel like Kyan Anthony's arrival to the Salt City has on this program, maybe this university as a whole?
I mean, we got to talk about this in the bigger financial picture. TV. I feel like a lot more games next year are going to be nationally televised. The first 3 games this season for the Orange, none of them were, which is new for this program. So I think we'll see this team get back into the national relevance. NIL, he's worth over $1 million, and there's going to be a lot more money pumped into this program over the next few years.
And he joins quite the recruiting class. Already some high-caliber players, Sadiq White, one of them, who's actually rated higher than Kyan Anthony. But now with the addition of Anthony, you bring this recruiting class up to top 10 in the entire country. Red Autry, really solid improvement going from year 2 to year 3 even recruiting-wise.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of people giving Autry some criticism right now because the team isn't necessarily performing as well as it should be, but you look at the recruiting rankings, and it's the highest it's been in a very long time. In addition to that, you look back to last year, Donnie Freeman, Choppa Moore, these are 2 4-stars, 5-stars, these are 2 top recruits back-to-back years. So Autry is really getting it done now, not just this season, but last year as well, and this is a good start to this new era.
When you combine all those players together with even some of the guys on the roster right now, how do you think this Syracuse roster looks next year heading into year 3 with Adrian Autry?
Oh boy, I mean, Skyler, you know this. This is this new era of college basketball. So we don't really know what next year's roster looks like because J.J. Starlin could be gone. We don't know who's coming back, but you have the foundation pieces right now. We assume Choppa Moore is going to be back. We assume, of course, Kyan Anthony will be here, Sadiq White. There's a lot of natural talent. There's a lot of 4-stars, 5-stars, which when you're building a program is all that you can ask for.
And you got to wonder, Adam, whether the appeal of playing with Kai and Anthony attracts even more players to Syracuse. I mean, that's a pretty big name. Like you said, a lot more eyes are going to be on the Orange. How do you feel like Kai and Anthony's presence here at SU can even help pull more players to the Salt City?
I mean, Skyler, look, we're out here for a reason because this is big enough news. This isn't just a 4-star committing to Syracuse. This is Carmelo's kid, and I think people are going to want to play with Carmelo's kid, right? I mean, you'd want to play with Carmelo's kid if you had the chance. So, there's just so many more eyes that are going to be on this program. In the portal, you got to think it's going to help, right?
You sure would hope so, because you have to give Adrian Autry a lot of credit. He did a very solid job in the transfer portal this year, anyways, without even the allure of Kai and Anthony. But now when you add all these players to the mix and you add the appeal, the allure of Kai and Anthony, the allure of Carmelo Anthony sitting courtside maybe at the Carrier Dome, the JMA Wireless Dome, I should say. It was the Carrier Dome when Carmelo Anthony was winning the national championship 21 years ago. But now you add all that together and it starts to look really appealing for the Syracuse men's basketball team. But you want to know what else is pretty appealing? Having a third voice. I'm sure people are tired of hearing us yap all about this all the time. So let's bring in our Q's Countdown analyst, Luke Burgess, to talk a little bit more about this Syracuse men's basketball team. Luke, thanks so much for joining us. This is Q's Countdown analyst Luke Burgess here to dive into a little bit more about the X's and O's of Kai and Anthony, one of the newest commits to Syracuse men's basketball, a top 50 player in the country coming out of a really solid basketball program at Long Island Lutheran out in his home state of New York. Luke, what type of player is Kai overall?
I think really, Skyler, he's a shoot-first player. That's the mentality that he kind of brings to the court. He's a player who knows how to create difficult shots and finish on them. He also gets himself into a lot of good positions. He shot about 38% from the field his senior season, so maybe the number's a little bit lower than you would like, but a big reason for that is because he takes a lot of shots, and he is the go-to guy in any offense that he's ever played in. So maybe we're looking at a little bit of an adjustment period, right, when he originally arrives to Syracuse, because with the recruiting class the way that it's gone, obviously, Adam, you mentioned earlier, top 5 recruiting class, there's a good chance that they're going to add some more impressive pieces. They've already added Sadiq White, who's a fantastic player. So Kai, maybe not the guy shooting-wise next year right off the bat, but he can easily become that because he's been able to transition between different offenses. He's also played AAU ball as well, where he's had a lot of success. So he understands how he can adapt and kind of find his position in Red Autry's offense going into next year. And I think the main takeaway from this guy is that he's a guy who can make a lot of difficult shots. Maybe just cutting down on those difficult shots and making sure that his shot selection is where it needs to be is the number one thing for him next year.
We've seen a couple pretty high-profile guards come up to Syracuse over the last few years, Luke. You think of Judah Mintz, J.J. Starling. How is Kai different from some of the guys that Syracuse has seen in the past?
Right. I think that he really kind of owns the court with a presence. And it is similar to Judah Mintz in a way, right? Because Judah Mintz was the go-to guy in SU's offense last season and in Jim Boeheim's final season. He was a guy who was, driving the basket consistently, going to the foul line a ton. And I could see a world where Kai plays a very similar type of game because he loves to have the ball in his hands. And that's really the thing that you can look at a lot of different scouting reports and a lot of different opinions on this guy, but every single report leads back to the same thing, is that this guy loves to shoot the basketball. He loves to be in positions to score.
When you look at the players on Syracuse's roster right now, J.J. Starling, you don't know if he's still going to be with the Orange next year. He likes to have the ball in his hands, but he's also developed into quite a shooter. Chris Bell, you don't know if he's still going to be in Syracuse next year. When you have a shooter like Chris Bell, who is really the primary sharpshooter for this Orange team, how do you trade reps there between Bell and Anthony?
Right. I honestly think that if J.J. Starling is still a part of this offense, that would really benefit Kai and Anthony's development in year one, because easily the weakest part of Anthony's game right now is his passing. He does not make great decisions off ball in terms of getting himself in positions to make good shots. We talked about how that difficulty with shot selection is something that he kind of struggled with in high school, even though he made a lot of those shots because of his talent. In the ACC, though, that's not going to fly, right? And when you talk about trading reps with Chris Bell has the experience. If you're talking about next season, then we would be looking at 3 years of ACC experience under his belt, where he understands what he has to do to get open in big-time ACC games. Kyan's not going to have that next year. So I still think that you see Chris Bell as the primary sharpshooter if you're looking at splitting reps between both of those guys. But Cayenne, like I said, I mean, he's transitioned so well at every level where it's really taken him only a couple of games to look really comfortable in any offense that, I mean, I don't want to speculate too much, but I could certainly see a world where he could overtake that role by the end of the year. But of course, like you mentioned, we don't know who's going to be in this offense next year. It's a lot of speculation.
So we have talked pretty much all offense so far, but there's a whole other half of basketball that Syracuse right now has struggled with, which is defense. How do you think that Anthony, his defensive, part of his game can transition to college, and his athleticism can kind of help him out there?
The general consensus is that his defense is still a work in progress, right? You're bringing in this guy as an offensive player, and certainly he has ability on the defensive side of the ball, but his primary focus is with shooting. He does have that athleticism that you talked about, right? And that's another thing that's been talked about a lot in terms of different scouting reports, is that he has the ability to play good off-ball defense, to play aggressive and physical. It's just about getting him into that system and making sure that he's a guy who can really defend at the ACC level, right? I don't know that a lot of scouts think that he's ready to defend at the ACC level right now, but once again, you go back to the fact that he's an athletic guy. He's got all the physical traits, similar to a Donnie Freeman. You see those athletic traits kind of jump off the screen when you watch him play or jump off the court. So I think that people are confident that he can adapt to that defensive style. Maybe he's not there right now.
Well, thank you very much, Luke. It sounds like Syracuse could use him right now because, as I said earlier, this team has struggled so far this season. It took until the final possession in the opener against Lemoyne and in the second game against Colgate for the Cuse to come out on top. On Saturday, Syracuse welcomed Youngstown State to the Dome, the squad that lost by 40 against Ohio State earlier this season. Could things go different in the Dome? Let's send things over to Irving Ave. Another really solid turnout from the Cuse faithful, just under 20,000 on hand, but they were given absolutely nothing to cheer about early on. Syracuse led for just 22 seconds in the first half, largely because of self-inflicted wounds like this. Lucas Taylor just throws it away. There's no one there except for Ty Harper on Youngstown State, who takes it the other way, lays it in. Penguins lead by 7 at the half. We've got to quickly jump ahead. Cuse down by 4 minutes to go, and J.J. Starling took over. Big bucket to make it a 2-point game. Now 15 seconds left. Tie game. Nico Gallette gets past Donnie Freeman, lays it in. Penguins up by 2. So Syracuse gets it back. Needs a 2 to tie, 3 to take the lead, and it's all J.J. Starling. He had a career-high 38 points, put the team on his back. They would not have been in it if not for him. Early in overtime, a backdoor feed to Chris Bell and one for the junior, who really struggled with just 9 points. 24 seconds left, 5-point game. Oh my, a 3 for Jawan Maxey to make it a 2-point game. And then Ty Harper gets fouled by Jaquan Carlos. What are you doing? 2 free throws, so easy to send it in to double overtime. Early on, the Cuse found their mojo. Elijah Moore, first career 3, good. He can do his signature target celebration, and the Cuse were feeling it. But hold on, Nico Gallette had something to say. Back to a 3-point game with 1:40 to go. But then, once again, J.J. Starling was spectacular. The layup good to put the Cuse up by 5, and from there, they didn't look back. The Cardiac Cuse, I guess you could say, in mid-season form, a 9-point win. Chris Schroyer had more in the Dome.
For the 3rd consecutive game in the Dome, Syracuse has gone down to the absolute wire. Today, beating Youngstown State 104-95 in double overtime. Junior guard J.J. Starling put up a career-high 38 points on 14 for 23 shooting. Coach Autry said he wanted to get the hot hand the ball in the second half.
Had to make an adjustment there offensively, again, stop running that stuff and just kind of get the ball in the middle of the court, let JJ go to work. And when players have that look, as a coach, it. So, again, I thought he delivered. I thought he was, huge.
I was just taking what the defense was giving me, and I was just getting to my spots, attacking downhill, and luckily that was able to give me some calls.
The career highs did not just end with Starling today. Center Eddie Lampkin also notched a personal best 7 assists. He said he notices a big difference transferring from the Big 12 to the ACC.
They double teamed me way more. When I was in the Big 12, they was double teamed, but they wasn't. It's more one-on-one in the Big 12 or in the Pac-12. Kind of they did a little bit, but I'll just say here so far they just been double teaming so quick and just being able to just read the game, and that's all I can really just ask for right there.
It's a big reason why we're still scoring right now because of Eddie. Getting some offensive glass, and when they double, getting 1 or 2 dump offs. So he's generating some easy points. Even he's a big guy, even on those handoffs.
The Cuse will be on 4 days rest before they head down to Brooklyn to take on Texas in the Legends Classic at the Barclays Center. Tip-off is slated for 7 o'clock on Thursday. Reporting from the JMA Wireless Dome, I am Chris Schroyer, Citrus TV.
That Texas game will be a big test for Syracuse. The Longhorns were ranked to start the season, and you can see it on your screen. Syracuse's opponents have struggled when they've played other teams, but they've played great when they played the Orange, Skyler.
It's really insane when you look at it. I mean, Lemoyne, the first test for the Orange this season, are 1-3 since playing SU, including a 97-75 loss to Cal State Northridge. Also lost to the great St. Bonaventure Bonnie. Shout out Woj.
Shout out Woj,
So
yeah.
It's been a tough stretch for the Dolphins. And Colgate had already lost to Drexel by almost 20 points. So both teams seemingly stepped it up a notch when in the Dome.
It's interesting because teams are shooting almost 100 points higher from deep against Syracuse at Syracuse, a place that usually you hear is hard to shoot threes. How much of that is Syracuse is just getting unlucky versus they're leaving guys wide open?
It's a good point. I think they're not playing the Jim Boeheim zone anymore, but I feel like there's got to be something defensively that they got to tighten up with.
Oh, absolutely, because I mean you're giving up 83 points per game. That's unacceptable against teams like Lemoyne, Youngstown State, and Colgate.
And especially when the schedule only gets harder. But we've only got some more fun to have here, because up next on the bench, there was another cross-country trip for Syracuse football. Facing a tough Cal defense, could SU declaw the Golden Bears? Find out after this break.
That hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Welcome back into On the Bench. Adam Gotkin alongside Skyler Wilkes. Now inside our Citrus TV studio, much warmer, much nicer here, but Syracuse football, they went to a warm, nice place last weekend, going to California. I don't know about you, California doesn't feel like a real place to me. It just seems like this fairyland where it's always perfect.
Well, you have to remember that it was NorCal. NorCal is not the same as SoCal, so it was a little bit more brisk and chilly there.
You see, to me, California is all Los Angeles. Well, I've never been up to NorCal, so it's all the same to me. But you know what? I'm sure they enjoyed it, and we'll get to that game soon. But first, we've got to get you our headlines of the week. First off, we've got to give some love to the big boys in the trenches when they deserve it. SU's right tackle, Savion Washington, was dominant against Cal, earning ACC Offensive Lineman of the Week honors. The Colorado transfer finished with an 88% run blocking grade and a 90% pass blocking grade. The big fella played as if he was channeling fellow St. Vincent St. Mary's High School alum LeBron James on the gridiron. Washington may have to be called one of King James's nicknames moving forward, the Akron Hammer.
Some might say that Savion Washington is the best alum to come out of that high school, but you know, football has been in the headlines enough recently. How about we show some love to cross country? Both SU men's and women's teams qualified for the NCAA championships after their performances at the Northeast Regional on Friday. The men's squad won for the 12th time in the last 15 years. On the women's side, Syracuse came in second place behind Providence. The national championships are set to begin on November 23rd in Madison, Wisconsin.
The New York Giants have named former Syracuse starter Tommy DeVito as their new starting quarterback. Yeah, Tommy Cutlets is back, baby. The gunslinger spent 5 years with the Cuse before playing his 6th collegiate season at Illinois. DeVito signed with the G-Men as an undrafted free agent last year and started 6 games in his rookie campaign. Now he takes the reins of a struggling 2-8 team. This also means the return of the Italian stallion of sports agents, Sean Stellato, who of course was known for his fancy top hats, which I've got one myself.
You didn't bring one for me?
I did not, unfortunately, but in honor of Tommy DeVito, I've got my hat now.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. You should wear that from now on.
Well, you know, this is actually the anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, so also Abe Lincoln here too. It works for 2 things, right?
Not quite. I like the Sean Stellato bit a little bit better.
Okay.
Moving now from the Big Apple to Berkeley, Syracuse football took on California this weekend for the first time in 6 decades. In case you forgot, it's the Orange's 2nd trek to the Pacific time zone this season. Before now, SU hadn't made 2 West Coast trips in the same season since 1915. So let's check out how this inaugural ACC meeting went down. Cal coming off its first ACC win a week ago against Wake Forest, while Syracuse trying to bounce back after a loss at Boston College. You know, last time that these 2 teams played out there, it went 43-0 in favor of the Golden Bears. With the Orange, they came out swinging. LaQuinn Allen finds a hole and goes 30 yards for the score, his longest run of the season. That made it 13-0 SU early in the 2nd quarter. But Cal, with a bit of a quick answer, needing to score, and Javian Thomas busts right through the Syracuse defense and is off to the races. 75 yards for the score, gets the Golden Bears on the board. It's 13-7. Syracuse kept charging right down the field. LaQuinn Allen finds pay dirt yet again. 3rd straight game with multiple touchdowns. He's the first player for SU with 7 TDs in 3 games since Garrett Schrader in 2021. But SU not all about the run. How about Jackson Meeks getting into the end zone for the 4th time this season? His first in 4 games. It's 27-7. Syracuse at half. It looks like they're running away with it. Cal trying to put together a last-minute comeback. Jonathan Brady gets his first touchdown in gold and blue with just over a minute left to make it 33-25. But Kyle McCord will take that any day. An easy kneel, and Syracuse holds on to a 33-25. Its 3rd road win of the season, the most since 2018. And fortunately, Ian Nicholas has more from the West Coast.
In its first trip to Bear territory since the late 60s, Syracuse football got back to its winning ways against Cal, 33-25. No one needed that more than Orange head coach Fran Brown, who said after the Boston College loss that only winners get washed. Only winners get one of these, this being a bar of soap. Coach Brown is just happy he can get back in the shower.
Smell like 100 racks. It's like, no, I'm playing with you.
These motherfuckers smell like 100 racks.
Yeah, I mean, he was giving team balls out to a few of the guys that played well, and then one of the guys in the back was like, "Oh, Coach Fran, we got something for you," and it was a Old Spice bottle. So
I don't even think it was planned by anybody. Yasin just said, "We got something for you, Coach," and then everyone got quiet, and then he just pulled out a bottle of soap. Winners get washed, you know.
Syracuse was all smiles because they finally got off to a strong start. After not scoring in the first quarter over its last 3 games, SU led 27-7 at the break, and it wasn't all offense. The Orange had 2 takeaways, one from regular Marlowe Wax and the other from true freshman cornerback Davian Kerr.
Coach Fran was walking me through everything throughout the whole game, and played receiver by myself, so he gave me a speed release, so I'm either thinking it's a hitch or a fade coming, and the sideline said ball, and I looked, just went up, high point the ball.
I was super proud. Davian came in late summer this year. He been grinding with us all year. We all knew it was something in him, that he had some talent. And Coach Fran had really been the one on him trying to pull it out, pull the potential out, and it's just definitely happy to see him do that.
That kid, what do they call him? Willie Pitt? What's his name? Wally Pitt? Yeah. Now look at that. Davian Kerr came in, and all of a sudden now he's going to be a superstar.
Kerr and his defense are back in action next Saturday, defending the Dome against UConn, who's bowl eligible. Meanwhile, Syracuse improves to 7-3, ensuring just its 3rd winning season in the last decade. Reporting from Cal Memorial Stadium, Ian Nicholas, Citrus TV.
Great job, Ian. So glad that you escaped the wraths of the Calgorithm out there in Berkeley. And I think it's no surprise that Ian's presence out there at Cal Memorial Stadium produced some good starts there for Syracuse, who has really struggled to get going.
I'll tell you what, I feel the last time we were on here, we had a lot of criticisms for Fran Brown. That was after he said that he was going to ask other coaches for help. I've done a 180. I love this new Fran Brown. The just passion that he's showing with the whole winners get washed thing, and then the way that his team played in the first half against Cal. I mean, this is a different football team after the BC game.
And even though, you have to remember, even though they lost to Boston College, that first half was still strong for SU, but I mean, the overall point differential, think about it, 27 points against the Golden Bears, that's 10 more than the previous 3 games combined. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous. Hopefully the Orange can keep it going against UConn on Saturday. We're going to keep going here on the bench. We're not even halfway through our show. When we come back, Syracuse women's basketball had a chance to get into the win column against Fairleigh Dickinson. We'll show you how it went down.
You quit smoking and thought, that's that. But here's the thing about lung cancer. By the time you see the symptoms, it could be too late. But now, there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early, when it's more curable. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Taking care of a family member can lead to plenty of questions. Fortunately, there's a place to get the answers, for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Back here on the bench, Adam Gotkin alongside Skyler Wilkes. Time to talk some Syracuse women's basketball, and a really interesting start to the season for this squad. I think everyone knew it was going to be different with the departure of Deasia Fair, but I don't know if anyone was expecting Syracuse to lose 2 of its first 3.
Well, against number 11 Maryland, that's really no surprise, but getting beat that badly by a decently
good
solid
St.
Joe's team. But they got beat pretty badly. I think that was a little bit shocking. And yeah, this team is just not the same without Deasia Fair out there.
No, not at all. But it's still early in the season, so we have to remember that. But still, Syracuse's 1-2 start is its worst through 3 games since 2006. To put that in perspective, some of this year's freshmen were born in 2006. But it's still early, and Sunday's matchup with Fairleigh Dickinson gave the Orange a golden opportunity to get back into the win column. The Orange have really struggled in second quarter so far this year. They've been great to start games, and that's how things went today. Dom Camp, who missed the first half against Maryland, nails a 3 to put the Orange up 10-0, so a perfect start for SU. But FDU wasn't going to go down easy. A buzzer beater from Tanisha Brown at the end of the first half. Orange up by 10 after 20 minutes of play. In the third quarter, Dom Camp, after a steal from Georgia Woolley, she was great. There's the assist. How about that team offense, team defense all around? And then on the other end, the team defense, again, another steal by Dom Camp. She had 8 assists in this game, but by the way, she was awesome. Georgia Woolley knocks down the 3. Just 9 points for the Australian. That's her lowest against a non-Power 5 team since 2022. But at the end of the day, it did not matter because this Syracuse team absolutely dominated. All you got to do is watch this play. Oh, the block from Sanaya Wilson. That's how this game went. The Orange just absolutely dominated. 77-58. Exactly the rebound that Felicia Legette-Jack's squad needed. And it was everyone who got it done. 3 players in double figures. Sophie Burrows had 11, Kyra Wood had 12, and Georgia Woolley had 10.
And you mentioned that it wasn't a great performance overall for Georgia Woolley, but look at even the rebounds. Kyra Wood has really started to lead this team. Came in a few years back and was a bit sluggish as a leader, but now is really starting to shine. Pairing her with Isabel Verajao, really solid combo. And then the Australian backcourt duo of Woolley and Burrows has really great potential.
And as we said, losing Deasia Fair, there was a lot of questions of who's going to replace her, and here's this 3-headed monster of everyone now scoring, especially Burrows. She's really stepped up to start this season.
And it's not even just her. You saw a few of those highlights, including Dominique Camp. But like you did mention, Adam, there are a lot of new faces contributing for this women's basketball team. But one familiar face is finally healthy and back on the court. Our beat reporter, Kieran Costa, details Dominique Camp's long road back from injury.
Cannot put weight on her left foot, rather either foot right now, being carried by Latham and Wood off the court.
That play occurred in the fourth quarter of Syracuse women's basketball's exhibition game against St. Rose, all the way back in October of 2023. Camp was later diagnosed with a torn ACL and forced to miss the entirety of last season. The rehab process wasn't easy, but she wasn't in it alone.
Physical-wise, it was definitely a body shock from the beginning. Just coming out of surgery and still in the position to where I really want to be on the court, but knowing that I had to lock in the training room and also in the weight room.
The big thing is building a foundation. So she could extend, she could stop. She had the ability to stop and strengthen and proprioception and then move forward. So it started there.
Throughout the arduous rehab process, Camp had just one thing in mind.
That whole season, I really wanted to play, but I wasn't able to play, so I just had to sit on the sideline and cheer my teammates on the best as I could. But my main goal was to be on the court again.
The guard is getting right back into the swing of things. She has reached double digits in 2 of her first 4 games back and leads the team in assists. Everybody is happy to see her back on the court where she belongs.
It feels really nice to see her playing, running, flying around, and being free. I just think that, she's just a part of the team now, She's just a part of the 13 that's going after something bigger than themselves.
Oh, Dom as a player and a person are exactly what you want. So as a player, you can coach her hard, you can be on top of her, you can let her know what she's doing right, what she's doing wrong, and she's not going to take anything personal. And then as a person, she's the best.
Camp is ready to put the injury behind her and focus on being the best player that she can today.
Being able to get back on the court, it kind of just shows the work that I did was worth it. And although it wasn't easy, it's taken me to where I am now. And I think that I'm going to continue to try to lead this group and be the best point guard I can.
Reporting for CitrusTV, I'm Kieran Costa.
Great job there, Kieran. Still to come, it's tournament time. On the pitch, Syracuse field hockey played a nail-biter in the Nutmeg State. Stay tuned to find out which Northeast foe came out on top.
Yo, camping buddy. Okay, you guys ready?
Dude, I thought you were driving.
I thought you were driving.
Oh, I never said I was driving.
I definitely can't drive. There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.
Welcome back inside the CitrusTV studios. On the bench rolls on alongside Adam Gotkin. I'm Skyler Wilkes, and field hockey is a really underrated sport, Adam.
I agree. My favorite thing about field hockey, this sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually great. The sound of when they hit the ball,
yeah,
it's so satisfying. It's like almost like an ASMR type video. I love it.
And Coyne Stadium, definitely the nicest on campus.
Oh, it's great.
That's for another time. For the 4th consecutive year, though, Syracuse field hockey found itself in the NCAA tournament. SU's first opponent was number 10 Harvard, which came in on a 5-game win streak that included an Ivy League title. This meeting took place on the campus of UConn, down in the great state of Connecticut. And for Syracuse, trying to bounce back after a heartbreaker in the ACC tournament and a heartbreaker to end the season, Harvard, though, like I mentioned, came in hot. 5-game win streak and really put it on. Early in the first quarter, into the shooting circle, and it's Sage Pekarski with a shot, but that misses wide, ends up in the possession of Syracuse's Phoebe Hall. So SU stalls that attempt, but the Crimson weren't done. An APC shot from Bronte Broth. That's a defensive save from Bo Von Kempen, keeps it scoreless at the half. Now the Orange with an offensive chance of their own. This is Von Kempen turning defense to offense, but got stopped by goalie Tessa Chabot. So we are still scoreless. Harvard trying to end it in regulation. Another attacking corner. Emily Gotkin is saved by Louise Pert, one of her 2 on the day. So we're going to overtime. 2 of Harvard's games in the Ivy League tournament went into OT, and this is where it ended. Laura Bakeis with a slap shot between the legs of Louise Pert. Harvard wins 1-0 to advance to the NCAA quarterfinals. And Syracuse, another heartbreaking end to the season. You look at last year, another 1-goal loss to Duke in the Elite Eight. Then the year before, it was a loss to Maryland in a shootout. Adam, the Orange just can't catch a break.
Yeah, ever since that national championship back in 2015, just loss after loss after loss. This team hasn't made it back to the Final Four since then.
Yeah, and now they're with a new head coach. Lynn Farquhar just finished her 2nd year, got to the NCAA tournament, now in each of the first 2. But again, falling short. Still, Farquhar has a whole lot of love for her squad.
You do this for a reason, and it's the people. And what this group gave beyond themselves and started to come together I just think is so impressive. They're just amazing people. Any of them could hang out with anybody else on the team. They're competitive, they have fun with it, whether it's cards or the hockey, and that's something I don't think you see in every team, every squad. It's the people you'd want to be around every day.
We've got a great person now joining us here on the bench. Dan Shalam, CitrusTV field hockey beat reporter. Dan, a rough end of the season, but overall a pretty good one for Syracuse. They were in the top 25 throughout the entire year. So we thought that we would do a bit of an abbreviated benchies here, a award show at the end of the field hockey season, and we'll start off with this. First award, most valuable player for the Orange this season.
I mean, without a doubt, it's got to be Bo Von Kempen. You heard me talking about her all season long. 19 games this season, 19 starts, 15 goals. That is the most on the team. Earned all ACC honors this season, and she was just a beast on the attacking penalty corner for the Orange all year long. It was her bread and butter. 12 of the 15 goals for her this season came off of those APC chances. And just to put into perspective how much she was dedicated to this team, she played nearly a full game in every single contest for the Orange. You do 19 times 60, that's over 1,100 minutes this season played for Von Kempen. Most on the team, second best, had 900. She didn't score in the last 4 games this season for the Orange. Part of the reason they couldn't get over the hump, but they wouldn't have been there without her.
That was a pretty obvious, easy answer for you for the MVP, of course, Bo Von Kempen, one of the better goal-scoring seasons that we've seen in a long time for Syracuse field hockey. But who do you think was the biggest unsung hero for this squad? Someone who flew a bit under the radar, but was a big part of this team's success.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be Wilhelmine Bogert. She was really in the shadows last season with Pika van de Paal, Charlotte de Vries, and Efke van de Nieuwenhof really taking the scene. But this year, she stepped it up. Last season, 6 goals, 6 assists for her career best 18 points. Stepped that up this year. 7 goals, second most on the team. 9 assists, that was a team leading mark, and finished with the career best 23 points. Was named second for all ACC honors, and she was really all over the field for Syracuse this season. But another player, similar to Von Kempen, that scored in the 7 games for Syracuse leading up to those last 4 and then had nothing. Another reason that the Orange came up short. But without Bogert, you're simply not in the position to even fight for a playoff spot. So she really stepped it up this year and took full advantage of the spotlight for the Orange.
Wilhelmine Bogert, one of the players who was here for a while. I think that's one of the great things about college field hockey. There are some players who enter the portal, but a lot of teams are 4-year players. So who do you think was the most improved player for Syracuse this year? Someone who has been here in the past and got a lot better this season.
Well, you heard me talk about how Von Kempen and Bogert really didn't show up down the stretch. And if you're going to play postseason field hockey, your goaltender has got to be hot. And for Syracuse, that was Louise Pert without a doubt. She had a 1.19 goals against average this season for the Orange. That's the best mark by a Syracuse goaltender since 2021. And you really go back to the ACC tournament when Syracuse was on the bubble. They faced UNC and UVA. Pert only let up 3 goals on 23 attacking penalty corners, which is just an absurd mark against some great competition. She finished the year 6 wins, 12 shutouts, and she was just really all over the place for the Orange this year. They really wouldn't have a shot without her in the postseason. And you look at Von Kempen and Bogert, sure, they might have came up short, but Pert gave them the best shot. She had a couple key saves in that Harvard game, gave the Orange the best chance to win, but at the end of the day, just got a little bit unlucky. But really, without Pert, this team wouldn't have even seen the postseason.
Well, Dan, thank you so much. An incredible job this season covering this team. A lot of people don't realize he's also a producer. So, Dan, you got to get back into the audio booth to produce the rest of our show. Dan also will have all the off-season coverage on X at Dan_Shalam. But Dan's got to go back to the audio booth because our show continues on here on the bench. When we come back, we're talking Syracuse ice hockey, which was about to get to its worst losing streak in program history. Could they win? We'll find out.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Oh, look at the rain. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet. Oh,
And we're back on the bench. Adam Gotkin back with Skyler Wilkes. We're still sulking, still a little bit sad about the end of this Syracuse field hockey season. It is crazy that we are already into winter sports. I mean, the fall is pretty much done. Both soccers are over. But one sport that continues pretty much throughout the entire season, started back in September, goes until March, is ice hockey. It's nice to have a sport that goes all throughout, isn't it?
It is, and it's impressive for those student athletes to keep playing regardless of the season. You know, they start early in the fall, or I guess midway through the fall, and then go deep into the winter. But you're right, Adam, going back to that point, it is almost not depressing, but it is a little sad to see the fall come and go.
It is, and you know, there's so many great sports in the fall, but there's also great sports in the winter, of course. Basketball, lacrosse season's coming up soon, so it's a great time of year no matter what. It's always a good time to be a sports fan, but it hasn't been a great time necessarily to be a Syracuse ice hockey fan because it has been a really rough start for this squad. 9 losses in a row, but a matchup with a familiar foe offered a glimmer of hope. SU beat RIT twice in 4 matchups last year, but this is a new-look squad out in Rochester that took down number 6 Colgate last month. The Orange hosted the Tigers Friday in the first of a home-and-a-home doubleheader. Again, a loss here would mean that it's the longest losing streak in the history of Syracuse ice hockey, and a rough start for the Cuse because Kylie Aquero buries one in the first period, and the Orange down 1-0. Then down 2-0, but Charlie Kettle stepped up on the power play with the one-timer, her second power play goal of the season, and the Cuse down by 1 going into the final period. Now, Syracuse needing a goal. The offense has struggled. They haven't scored more than 2 since the opening weekend. How about Bryn Sorella? 43 seconds into the third period on the breakaway. We're all even at 2. Now, Syracuse on the short-handed opportunity. RIT, the 6th best power play unit in the country. Doesn't matter. Sorella again buries it. First shorthanded goal of the season. That's Sorella's 3rd of the year, her 2nd of the game. And Syracuse finally back into the win column in game 1 of the doubleheader, 4-2.
And that was also the first conference victory of the season for the Orange, who now headed west to Rochester, trying to keep up the winning ways. And it started off on the right foot. Less than 2 minutes into the first quarter, Nea Tervanen, with her 2nd goal of the year, finds the back of the net. But you knew the Tigers wouldn't go away, trying to create some offense. Athena Vazdani with a shot, and Allie Kelly swallows it up. 33 saves for the grad student who had 40 in game 1 in the Orange. Kept pushing though offensively. Jocelyn Fiala with a shot, that gets saved, so 1-0 Orange at the end of the first period. The Tigers kept fighting, but Ireland Stein with a miss wide right. RIT outshot SU 33-13, still couldn't find the back of the net. Syracuse leading 1-0. Now, after 2 periods, last chance for RIT, and who else but Allie Kelly. Comes up big, 30-plus saves in each of the last 5 games. SU with its first road win of the season, 3rd shutout of the season, and can avoid that wrong side of history.
Yeah, a massive, massive sweep for Syracuse to get up to 4 wins on the season. And remember, this team won just 7 last year, so they're absolutely a chance for them to get even higher. I mean, last year, this team lost 6 in a row. So this is something that we see a lot. Tough schedules every single year. Had to play Penn State, St. Lawrence, a lot of tough opponents. But now maybe this team has found its footing and can really turn things around.
Yeah, you hope that gives you some momentum and some confidence. It has not been the smoothest sledding for Brittany Smith since she took over for the great Paul Flanagan. And I know those are big shoes to fill, but since then, Syracuse, I mean, you got to make sure you keep at least on the right track where you're not falling back into 9-game skids.
I mean, we're seeing it with the men's basketball team and Adrian Autry. It is hard to replace a legend. Boeheim here was forever. Flanagan was here forever. He created that ice hockey program, so not at all an easy task for Brittany Smith, but at some point you feel like she's got to start turning it around. This is 3 straight seasons where her team has been on this list of long losing streaks. But again, a sweep against a pretty good RIT team that beat a top 10 team in the country, took another top 10 team in the country to overtime earlier this season. So, maybe things are looking the right way right now.
When you add that transitive property, that means SU is basically better than Colgate at
I guess
at
you could
point.
say that.
But, Syracuse ice hockey isn't the only team that has really struggled. Moving from the ice to the court, volleyball headed south for a pair of matchups, but they also need a win. Coach Bake's crew looked to build on its big win from last time. Now, we'll have the answer if they could do it when OTB returns.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Still chugging along on OTB with Adam Gotkin. I'm Skyler Wilkes. We talked really about just about every sport, from the gridiron to the pitch to the volleyball court. Well, not there. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I just can't help myself. Last Sunday, Syracuse volleyball pulled off a shocking victory. SU completed a reverse sweep of Notre Dame to secure its second ACC win of the season. Just 5 days later, though, the Cuse traveled to the Peach State to take on number 15 Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets had won 9 of their last 10, which included 5 straight at home. So it's already tough sledding, an uphill battle, if you will, for Coach Bake and company down in Atlanta for one of 2 straight road games. And the Yellow Jackets kind of flexed their muscles. I mean, first set, SU went on a 7-2 run, only trailed 13-11 at one point. But GT really pulled away, ended up taking that first set 25-16. Second set was more the same, where SU started behind 4-1, then went on a 5-0 run. But of course, the Yellow Jackets took 8 of the next 10 points to pull away. SU, though, wasn't done just yet, brought it to within 3, and then GT rattled off 10 of the next 13, took the second set 25-15. Into the third, GT won the first 8 points, won that third set 25-17 for a straight sweep.
And finally, a weekend doubleheader for Syracuse, where they had a lot of travel. This team got lucky earlier in the season, playing at UNC, at Duke, at Cal, at Stanford. This time, a bit of a further trip up to Clemson, and it was not a good outing from the Orange, especially early on. Syracuse dropped the first set 25-14. And the second set 25-14. In that second set, the Tigers won 9 points in a row to come out on top. They took the momentum and just ran away with things. In the third, though, it was a lot closer, 25-23. SU actually led by 1 late in that third set, but gave up 4 in a row and lost. But this season starting to come to an end for the Orange. They take on Boston College in back-to-back games and then host Cal and Virginia Tech. But these are a lot of winnable matchups. BC 5-11 in the ACC, When Syracuse went to Cal, they got reverse swept, so won the first 2 sets and then lost the last 3, and they beat Virginia Tech when they played them earlier in the year.
And that's the thing. Those 3 teams are very beatable. BC has lost 3 in a row. Cal is 0-7 on the road, and Virginia Tech is the worst team in the ACC, 7-19 on the year with 10 straight losses, looking a whole lot like SU ice hockey.
So there's chances for this team to really get some wins before the season comes to an end. But conference play up to this point has not gone as planned for the Orange. But there is no denying the culture that third-year head coach Bakir Ganesh-Ratnam has built. One of this year's standouts is a newcomer that has perfectly reflected that. Our volleyball beat reporter Josh Solomon caught up with Sydney Moore to learn more about her life off the court.
Graduate student Sydney Moore has the 2nd most blocks and 5th most kills on Syracuse volleyball. But the middle blocker contributes way more than just what's on the stat sheet. Moore uses her platform to discuss topics like the positives of NIL for student athletes.
I think it's allowed me the opportunity to do what any other student walking around Syracuse's campus is able to do, which is to profit off the ideas that they have, to profit off the value that they bring to the university or to the different rooms that they walk in. So for me specifically, but also to just be in those spaces.
The Cornell transfer discusses that passion on her podcast, Let's Talk About It.
Megan Wright, a junior on the women's lacrosse team at Yale. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited. Let's Talk About It with Ryan Mice, a grad student at Seton Hill basketball.
Sydney, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Talking about student-athlete mental health with Laura Jones, an associate professor at UNC Asheville and their mental health coordinator in their athletic department. Laura, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Sydney.
Because of her work, Moore was honored with the Billie Jean King Youth Leadership Award at the ESPYs. But the award hasn't stopped Sydney from continuing to talk about topics she finds important, and most recently, that's been voting.
When I talk about NCAA student athletes voting, a lot of these decisions are going to affect us. Where you decide to go to school, like the laws are going to affect where you might decide to go to school, especially if you're a woman. Your rights under Title IX and how NIL money will be allocated. If you obviously if you're an international student, you're not voting. But if your best friend is an international student, will she be able to join you on this NIL deal? There's so many things that impact us, and also just being students in your state that impact us. That I think voting is super important, and it's given to us, and so many people fought for that right to vote. We need to use it.
Moore's collegiate career might be coming to an end, but it won't stop her from continuing to speak her mind. Josh Solomon, Citrus TV.
Great work as always by Josh. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshSolo29 for everything you need to know about Syracuse volleyball. We're not done yet here on OTB. When we come back, we've got our performers and plays of the week. Don't go anywhere.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Wrapping things up here on the bench alongside Adam Gotkin, I'm Skyler Wilkes, and can you believe it, Adam? It's our final show of the semester.
I know. It's so sad. It completely flew by just like that. We've already done 3 of these, and this is our last one.
It's really sad, but fortunately we saved the best for last, and that's the performers of the week. A successful week on the Hill for all Syracuse athletes, and we start on the ice with Bryn Sorella playing a big role in snapping SU's 9-game losing streak. Had a career-high 2 goals against RIT. Believe it or not, she had won all season coming in. That was actually a career high as well. For her career at Holy Cross, only had won the most there. 9 shots, 2 goals, not too bad, and obviously helped SU get its first conference win of the season. She scored earlier on in the year, but spent 9 games without a goal. Bryn Sorella coming up big for the Orange.
Yeah, coming up huge there for Syracuse. Someone who's been pretty consistent all throughout the season, who is our second performer of the week, is Syracuse football's running back LaQuint Allen, who had his second 100 rushing yard game this season and his third game in a row with multiple rushing touchdowns. He also had 25 receiving yards. Allen has now had over 100 all-purpose yards in all but 2 games this season. Those 2, the losses to Stanford and Pitt. So it's pretty obvious when LaQuint Allen plays well, Syracuse football plays well, and we can say that he played well to say the least against Cal.
You know who played pretty well this past week in their game?
I'm going to guess the number 1 performer.
It is, and it's J.J. Starling from the men's basketball team against Youngstown State. Double overtime victory. You know, the Penguins tried to freeze him, but they couldn't. A career-high 38 points. That's the most by an SU player since Cole Swider did it in 2022. But I think what may be more impressive about Starling's performance is that 31 of those came in the second half. That includes the 2 extra periods as well. So even though SU may have, it's kind of embarrassing that they might have gone to double overtime there with Youngstown State, it's not embarrassing that J.J. Starling dropped 38 points on him, leading the way and deservedly earning our number 1 performer of the week.
Starling was awesome. I was waiting all year for him to finally take over, and he did it in that game when his team needed him. There were a couple great highlights from that game, which we will show you soon because it's time for my favorite time of the show, our top plays. Let's roll them. Starting off on the court, not the basketball court, but the volleyball court, Zaria Harris-Waddy with a nifty spike. She's in the middle, goes all the way out to the side. I don't know how she got the angle on it, but that's pretty perfect. Unfortunately, though, Syracuse dropped this one 3-0, but a great play there.
Yeah, that was a pretty impressive play. We move now to the ice. Syracuse in the power play, trailing against RIT. Until now, Charlie Kettle with a slap shot, her 4th goal of the year. And that, like we've talked about all show, helped SU snap a 9-game losing streak, 4-2 win over RIT.
Well, I said that there was going to be a highlight from the men's basketball game. Here it is. First overtime, Syracuse needs some more points here. Eddie Lampkin, the behind-the-back pass to Chris Bell. He lays it in and 1. This probably should have iced the game. It didn't. This game went into a second overtime, but incredible passing there from the big man and a good finish. Syracuse, of course, ended up winning this game 104-95 in double overtime.
Well, let's stay on the hardwood with the women's team, though. Sanaya Wilson is our recipient here. Tyler Edwards, do you believe it? Sanaya Wilson says, I don't think so. Rejects Tyler Edwards for her first shot, her first block of the season. Starting to play a real veteran presence for SU and helped the Orange take down the Knights 77-58.
For our final play of the week, of course, it's number 1. And how about this? McCord into the flat. LaQuint Allen, what's he going to do? Oh, the hurdle! Oh, my goodness. Jumps right over Cam Sidney halfway through the 4th quarter. One heck of a play here. Syracuse won this game 33-25 because of this guy, our performer of the weekend, the number 1 play of the week. Just exceptional here from LaQuint Allen.
It's really crazy, Adam. It seems like every single week now, kind of a sluggish start, didn't score for the first 3 weeks, but LaQuint Allen just continues to get better and better and better.
Yeah, he does. This entire team, it feels like, has gotten better in a lot of ways. The offensive line really improved this week. We talked about Savion Washington in the headline. He was ACC Offensive Lineman of the Week. When the line plays well, this team plays well, and LaQuint Allen really saw the benefit of that because he was able to run.
And it's important to note, Kyle McCord still heating up in the air as well. He threw for 300 yards again, now also passed the single-season completion record. So really impressive overall from Kyle McCord. But you want to know what's really impressive also? Maybe more impressive, our production team here on the Bench. Executive producer Max Gifford, his associates Dan Shalam, John Baccio, and Matthew Perry. With Adam Gotkin, Skyler Wilkes saying so long and enjoy our images of the week.
The algorithm is both fans and alumni who are terminally online.
What? Snap, handoff out, runs off left tackle, has Drew, and he rumbles into the end zone. Touchdown, Syracuse.
Back throws down the middle of the field and it's picked off. Marlowe Wax has it at the 45. Dances out to the far side 50.
fakes the snap, play action, looks to the right, zips it that way, complete Meeks, makes one man miss, and spins his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Orange.
The algorithm was 20 points level broken in that first half. Fran Brown showering, and I'm showering in all of your hate. It's all love, guys.